And top of the evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. Happy St. Patrick's Day and welcome into the only sports talk show that really matters right here on IUP-TV. It's The Big Hit. As always, I'm your host, Josh Hill. So much to talk about here tonight, and we'll begin with our NCAA Tournament Extravaganza, a two-part special as we preview each region of the bracket and look at who will advance to the Final Four in the NCAA Tournament. We'll also give our analysts a chance to redo some predictions they made earlier in the semester, and then we will hit the hardwood in the world of the National Basketball Association, updating the conference standings and also updating the MVP race in the NBA. Then we switch over to IUP basketball, recapping a tremendous season for the IUP women after their loss in the NCAA tournament, and update the current tournament situation for the IUP men here as they're playing in the Atlantic Region Championship as we speak. Then we'll close the show out talking some hockey, hitting the ice in the NHL, looking at the favorites to win the Conn Smythe and the Stanley Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, so many sports to talk about. It all starts right now on our hour-long extravaganza St. Patrick's Day edition of The Big Hit. And welcome in to the only sports talk show that really matters right here on IUP-TV. It's The Big Hit. After a 2-week hiatus, we are back, and it's time to talk college basketball. Best time of the year, ladies and gentlemen. It's March Madness, and we are joined by a great crew here with Kyle Condor, Will Gaucher, and Vaughn Delzell. I'm Josh Hill. Guys, let's begin in the top left side of the bracket, the Midwestern region, home to arguably the favorite, the #1 overall seed, the Kentucky Wildcats. So pretty simple question to start things off here tonight. Who is the biggest threat to Kentucky in this region?
Josh, you mentioned it. They're definitely the favorite for sure, and there's no doubt about that. But coming out of the SEC, it's kind of hard to judge how good they really are. They haven't played a competitor, at least a national championship competitor, since December. So I think they're definitely vulnerable. I don't think that they are invincible by any means. With that being said, I think Notre Dame can give them a run for their money. I know Vaughn has a lot to say about Notre Dame's defense, but it's not going to be defense that beats Kentucky. No one can stop them. There's no doubt about that on defense. I don't care who you are. You're going to have to keep up with them offensively, and that's what Notre Dame could do with Jerry and Grant at the helm. So I think Notre Dame could definitely give them a run for sure.
You touched on my player to watch in that region, actually, is Jerry and Grant. As long as, like you say, he paces that game and they score a lot of points, he drives and is able to kick it to those outside shooters, how they were in the ACC title game versus Carolina, they should have no problem at least competing with Kentucky, making it a close game. But it's Kentucky's to lose, really, I believe.
Yeah, definitely is.
Yeah, I don't think there's a team in this conference that can beat Kentucky. I think that Notre Dame does have a good shot, but as you said, I don't really like their defense too much. They rank 111th in defensive efficiency, which is a problem. But I think the team that will beat Kentucky is a team that can shoot a lot of threes and knock shots down. And I don't see a team in this region. I think Kansas is not the team to do that. Maryland has a little bit of a shot, but I don't think they have enough talent to dethrone the Kentucky Wildcats.
So when you look at this region, we're going to stick with this theme of sleepers, and you think this region would be the biggest region in terms of sleepers, with Kentucky the unanimous favorite. So who's the biggest sleeper in this particular region here, the Midwest? A lot of high-quality teams.
I think it's got to be Indiana, and that's because they host a lot of experience, especially in Yogi Ferrell, who averages 16 points per game, and James Blackman, who also averages around 16 points per game. So when you've got two players with star power like that, it kind of relies on those two players, and if they could do their job and put up 20, maybe even 30 points in a game, they could really beat anyone. And I think playing Wichita State, a team that comes out of a little bit of a weaker conference, whereas Indiana comes out of a very powerful conference, they're used to playing at a big stage against great teams. So I think they could definitely make a run. They're not big. They don't have any starters over 6'9", but they're quick, they're small, they can run with the best of them. So I think Indiana is definitely someone you have to look at as a team who could even make a run into the Final Four, without a doubt.
I have to go with Maryland. You want to talk about a team that runs and guns. I've watched them over the past couple of weeks in the Big Ten tournament. They had that disappointing loss to Michigan State, but I believe it was 2 or 3 points. You got Melo Trimble at the helm. He runs that show. He is their star player. I believe that is something that you look for going into the tournament. You need somebody that is really going to be able to carry you. So I would definitely have to go with Maryland.
Yeah, I like both your picks. I like a team that was ranked 10th at the beginning of the year as the Texas Longhorns. Now, they were very good. They have Miles Turner, one of the bigger big men in the league, but I think it's going to be hard. They have to win their first game to make a run because that's a tough part. But I also like Wichita State, who's playing Indiana. If they can beat them and upset Kansas, I think they have an Elite Eight meet with the Kentucky Wildcats. But it'll be tough to see because that first game for those two teams are the biggest games.
Yeah, Texas coming in as an 11 seed against Butler, and of course Melo Trimble averaging 16.3 points per game as a freshman. Tough first-round matchup against Valparaiso to start the number 13 seed. So let's ask the question. We'll ask this question for every region. Who is going to win and advance to the Final Four when it's all said and done?
I mentioned that they're vulnerable, but I think you have to say Kentucky. There's no doubt about it. They're undefeated coming into the tournament, and it's not like they are at Wichita State undefeated in the Missouri Valley Conference. They're in the SEC, and while I said the SEC is not that strong, they still do have some ranked teams that could give anybody in the country a run for their money, and Kentucky has made that conference look like nothing. And they've also ran through Duke, Wisconsin, and a couple of others in the beginning of the season. So I think that they have proven they're the best team in the country by a significant margin. They are vulnerable, but I think you have to pick Kentucky. There's really no argument against it at this point in time.
Yeah, Kyle, I'm not going against you. I don't believe anybody at this panel would go against that pick, Kentucky. But they need to come out hard because, as you know, when you are the hunted, you will get everybody's best game. Everybody wants the chance to knock them off. Mm-hmm. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't want to say we ruined the perfect season? But it's definitely going to be Kentucky coming out.
Yeah, I mean, I really can't disagree with you guys. Right now, Kentucky has 3 to 5 lottery picks in the draft. I mean, no one else in this region has that much talent. And when you have the best coach on your side, I don't really think they can lose right now.
Some teams don't even have 3 NBA players at all on their roster, if any, really. So
yeah, the rich get richer sometimes. And you look at Kentucky, 6 players average 8 points or better for them, and they're looking to add to a 118-48 overall record in the NCAA tournament. Just incredible to think what they've been able to do. Culture of success around Kentucky. But let's switch our focus a little bit to the Western region, headlined by the number 1 seed Wisconsin, coming off of a controversial overtime victory against Michigan State in the Big Ten title game. Look at some other seeds in this region. Arizona, the 2 seed. Baylor, the 3 seed. UNC is the 4, and Arkansas rounds out the top 5. Some believe this is the deepest region in the tournament, and it features the most teams that can make a run at the championship. Do you agree with that sentiment?
I definitely agree, and that's because they have 5 teams who you just named that were all in the top 25 toward the end of the season. And all of those teams were in different conferences too, so they host some of the best teams from 5 different conferences. I think any of those teams are equipped to make a run for the Final Four, if not a national title, and that starts with Wisconsin, who may be the 2nd best team in the country behind Kentucky with all the talent they have there. It goes without saying. And then you also have UNC, who showed that they're one of the better teams in the country toward the end of the season, making a run in the ACC tournament. We know how good that conference is, as well as Baylor, another great team, and Arizona speaks for itself. So there are plenty of teams in that conference that can make a run for a national title. I don't think there are that many teams in any other region that can make a run for the national title.
Yeah, 2 teams that we failed to mention, Ohio State and VCU, although they play each other in the first round. You got to watch out for either of those teams to come out. They could beat Arizona and find their way in the Sweet 16 very easily. And once you get into that Sweet 16, Elite 8, you know that you're getting inching closer to the Final Four. So that region is stacked. I don't know why the committee chose that specific region. Just powerful, as you
said. It seems that one region, it always happens every year, that one region is way more powerful than the rest.
So, in following what you were saying, Wisconsin starting it off, then I won't give away my sleeper pick, but they're coming next. It's so many teams that everybody just has a shot there, I feel like.
Yeah, this region's really deep. It's by far the best, going to be by far the most entertaining one. I mean, you see all the talent from Frank Kaminsky and the Badgers down to the 10 seed with D'Angelo Russell in Ohio State, and that's a talented freshman also, 21, 5, and 5 he averages. I mean, there's so many teams in this region that can make a run, but it's going to be interesting to see because I think every game can be really close in this region.
Yeah, there were a couple local connections in this tournament as well, but I don't want to spoil anything. I want to let you all get your thoughts in as well. So we'll move on and ask who the biggest sleeper in this particular region is. Tough to call some of these teams sleepers, but in terms of seeding, I guess they would be.
I'm going to have to go with Wofford here, and they're a 12 seed, so you can't really say that they're going to make the Final Four, but I'm going to say they're a sleeper because they're not one of the teams that we had mentioned earlier. You can't really say that any of those top 5 seeds in that conference are sleepers because they're all really good teams. So I'm going to go ahead and say that Wofford has a chance of getting past an Arkansas team who I believe is a bit overrated. I've been trashing the SEC this whole entire segment, and Arkansas obviously comes from the SEC. I think Wofford could give them a run for their money. This is their 4th tournament bid in 6 years. Now, they've never won a game in the tournament, but I think the time is now for them. They've been there before. They know what it takes to win. I think they finally get that win this year. I think they can make a run to the Sweet 16, and it would be cool if they could get to the Elite 8, but that is barring on all sorts of matchups and upsets earlier on and things like that. But I'm going to go ahead and say Wofford is a sleeper in that conference or in that region.
Yeah, I almost gave away my sleeper pick the last question, but I'm going with Baylor. Now, not really a sleeper, like we said, a 3 seed, but they're not really in a title discussion or to get to the Final Four, especially with Wisconsin and Arizona being in there. I will say this, their defense is incredible. They're averaging about 9 steals a game, 4 blocks. Defense wins championships, and especially at this level, you have to watch out for the Baylor Bears. You know that they like to get up and down. They're not as high scoring as their football team, maybe, but I would like to say Baylor.
Yeah, both teams very talented. I like the Wofford pick a lot, but I have to go with Ohio State. I feel like they're a talented team, but if they win their first game, they're going to run into an Arizona team that puts up a lot of points, and that's going to be a tough game because in the Big Ten, all those teams play defense. And, I mean, I'm a fan of defense more than offense, so it's tough for me to say, but I think Ohio State has a chance to make a run, but playing an Arizona team, that's a tough choice. That's a tough decision to make.
Yeah, no question about it. When you look at these sleepers, Wofford, their first round matchup against Arkansas, the Baylor Bears are going up against Kevin Ware and Georgia State, and then Ohio State with VCU. That's the 7 and 10 matchup. But let's look at this region as a whole, ask the question, who is going to win, and move on to the Final Four.
I think you have to say Wisconsin at this point. As we mentioned earlier, it's a stacked region, so it really can be anyone. But Wisconsin has the experience, and they also have the best player in the country in Frank Kaminsky, so you kind of have to lean towards Wisconsin right now. Obviously, the tournament never goes the way any of us predict, but I think you have to say Wisconsin without a doubt at this point in time.
I'm leaning towards team out west, Arizona. They have star power there with Stanley Johnson. Now, he's a freshman. He's putting up nice numbers, but I feel like he'll really want his draft stock to rise this year. So why not go with Arizona Wildcats? Nobody really gets to see a lot of them because they, like I said, they play out west, but I think they can make a run.
I'm going to politely disagree with both of you. Now, last year, Wisconsin and Arizona played a fantastic game to go to the Final Four, and I would love to see it again. But there's a team that reminds me of Connecticut last year. They got hot at the right time, made a long run, and that's Marcus Page and the Tar Heels. And I really like what they're doing. I think they can make a run. Do they have enough firepower to beat those two teams?
Inside.
It's gonna be hard to see, but I would love to see North Carolina make a run. I think they're very capable of doing so.
Yeah, when you look at North Carolina, second in the country in both rebounds per game and assists per game, North Carolina averages almost 17 assists per game as a team, and we'd be remiss to not mention the local connections with Arizona, of course, with their coach Sean Miller and point guard T.J. McConnell. A very good region, and it certainly is shaping up to be a tremendous NCAA tournament.
I knew you were going to make that local connection. I knew it.
Have to make the local connections here on the Big Hit. It's IUP-TV, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll step out for just a moment, come back, finish our March Madness discussion here as we look at the East region, the South region, and predict the National Championship and Player of the Year, all coming back right here on the Big Hit. Welcome back into the Big Hit, and happy St. Patrick's Day to you all. It is time to continue our March Madness discussion here. We're moving on to the right side of the bracket with Kyle Condor, Will Gaucher, and Vaughn Dalzell. Guys, let's move to the Eastern region with the top 5 seeds: Villanova, Virginia, Oklahoma, Louisville, and Northern Iowa, coming out of the Missouri Valley Conference 30-3 season. Seth Tuttle in Northern Iowa, tremendous year there. How far do you think the Panthers can go as a 5 seed in this tournament?
I think they're going to have trouble right away with Wyoming there in the first round. Each year there's a 12 seed that makes some sort of run, and I've already hyped up another 12 seed in Wofford, and I'm going to talk about another one a little bit later, but we'll stick to the script here.
Yes, the 12 seeds.
The 12 seeds always make a run. I
do.
believe the stat is something like there's been a 12 seed that advanced the Sweet 16 the last 4 years or something of the sort. I think Wyoming could be that team. Northern Iowa comes out of that weak Missouri Valley Conference. I think they're a little overhyped at this point in time with Seth Tuttle. They only have 3 losses on the season, but they haven't played that many great teams. Wyoming is right around their skill set, and I definitely don't think they're going to be able to get past Louisville in the second round. So I don't think Northern Iowa can go very far at all, really. I think they're a little bit overrated right now.
Yeah, that's where my dancing stops, is in that second round versus Louisville. I mean, like you said, that Missouri Valley Conference, much respect to.
Yeah, they're getting there.
Yeah, they're starting to get some life. But once they run into that Rick Pitino team, as we know, anything can happen with them. But Northern Iowa going up against Louisville is not going to be fun, I feel.
Yeah, Northern Iowa's been called mini Wisconsin. Tuttle's been called the mini Kaminsky, but I don't think there's anything that's going to show me that they're good enough to beat the Louisville team, as you just spoke on. Yeah. I think when Montrezl Harrell and Seth Tuttle match up, I think Montrezl is going to show him why he's a real athlete. He's a dominant athlete in that aspect. And even if Northern Iowa did beat Louisville, they'd probably have to play Villanova. And Villanova's a 1 seed for a reason. I don't think Northern Iowa has enough firepower beyond Tuttle to make a run.
Yeah, it's a tough road for Northern Iowa. You mentioned that first-round matchup against Wyoming going to be very tough. But when you look at Northern Iowa, they're very efficient on the offensive end. 16th in the nation. They shoot about 48% as a team. So overall, they can get it done on offense. So hopefully that can carry them. Of course, 3-6 in the NCAA tournament, looking to get back on track there. But let's look at this region as a whole and ask who the biggest sleeper is. A lot of teams that can contend from lower seeds as well in this region.
I promise, and I hope this is the last time I'm going to go in depth talking about the SEC. But I'm going to pick LSU here. And that gives the SEC a little bit of credit. I think LSU can run with the best of them, really. They have 4 guys on their team averaging over 11 points per game. Every year, the teams that make it deep into the tournament are teams that are deep in themselves. They have guys from top to bottom that can kind of put the team on their shoulders. Now, they're set if they get past Villanova, really, because I think they can run right past Louisville. They don't have too hard of a matchup there in the first round against NC State either, so they're set up for destiny. As long as they can get past Villanova, I think LSU is definitely a good team to pick as a sleeper in this region.
That was actually a great pick, but I'm going with Michigan State, and I'll tell you why. They have leadership, veteran leadership with Denzel Valentine and Brandon Dawson. And when you put that leadership combined with the coaching skills of Tom Izzo, anything can happen. Now, we know that they are very well equipped to make runs. In tournaments, I should say. You saw it in the Big Ten tournament. They got inches within beating Wisconsin. I feel like once things get rolling and they get that first game in, and then they'll have a probably matchup with Virginia, if they can beat that Virginia team, that'll tell you a lot of where they stand. So I would have to go with the Michigan State Spartans.
I'm a fan of both your picks. I wanted to say Michigan State, but you took it, so I'm going to go on the fly here. And I'm going to go with the Providence Friars. And here's why. In the Big East Championship game, they lost to Villanova by 2 single points. And Villanova, as we've seen, is a 1 seed, arguably the second to third best team in the country. And I really like Providence. They put up about 70 points a game. If they can win the first game, they can make a run. But as we said, this conference is pretty tough, or this region is pretty tough right now. But I like them, but I also like Michigan State a lot. They play very good team basketball, and when you have a great coach as Izzo, you could always make a run.
Yeah, those are 3 tremendous picks, and talk about Michigan State a little bit more. Good leadership, get a lot of people involved. Travis Trice, Denzel Valentine, both averaging over 14 points per game. Pretty lethal 1-2 punch, and like you said, Tom Izzo coach team really have the makings of a good sleeper. So let's look at this region and ask who will advance and head to the Final Four in the eastern region of this bracket.
I think it's got to be Virginia, and that bars a lot on whether or not Justin Anderson is healthy. Obviously, he's one of the best 3-point shooters in the country. So I think if he's healthy, you could call this team the second best team in the country. And I think they were just a step below Kentucky before they were injury-plagued with Malcolm Brogdon as well. Virginia is definitely a team that can contend for a national title, let alone just this region.
When Virginia had lost Joe Harris, I thought that they were going to take a little step back. He was such a vocal leader. He was a physical leader on the court, an extension of their coach. I would actually say Virginia, if they get past Michigan State, that's the only thing. Now, if they get past there, and like you said, the health of Anderson going forward, then I actually do think that they can make it to the Final Four.
Yeah, hitting on what you guys just spoke on. Virginia, I do think, is the second best team in the country when completely healthy. Justin Anderson has not been himself lately with the surgery he just had and the messed up fingers and everything. But I like Villanova a lot. I do. They play in a weaker conference, but they're a team that runs up and down the court. They score a lot, and sometimes that helps you a lot in games like this. And if they match up against Virginia, Virginia wants to slow that game down. Villanova's going to keep pushing and pushing. And I think Villanova is not the best team in this region, but I think they're going to make it to the Final Four.
Yeah, I feel like this region really has the capability for some fantastic games just from start to finish. Some very evenly matched teams in the Eastern region. Let's go ahead and take a look at the last region in the bracket, the South region. The top 5 seeds, Duke is the number 1, Gonzaga at 2, Iowa State 3, Georgetown is 4, and Utah rounds out the top 5. So who do you have as the most overrated team in this region right now?
It's going to have to be Georgetown, if you ask me. I don't think that they deserve the number 4 seed. That caught me way off guard. I thought they were going to be closer to an 8 seed for that matter. They didn't win their conference, which is the Big East, and that's pretty sad because the Big East is not what it used to be, of course. So I don't think anybody, unless you win that conference, deserves to be a 4 seed or higher, which is why I think Georgetown, let alone is undefeated, overrated, because they just came out of a weak conference, really.
Actually, mine is an 8 seed. You have mentioned an 8 seed, and that's San Diego State. They have 2 losses to Boise State, a loss to Colorado State, and granted, it was the championship game of the Mountain West, but they lost to Wyoming as well, let them into the tournament. They're 300 plus in scoring. They are 300 plus in assists. That is not a recipe for a good basketball team. So for them to be ranked 8th, I feel is unfair. That's just my take on it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of these upsets, and I really think Stephen F. Austin can make a run. They won a game last year. I think they have a good shot to make it to the Sweet 16 this year for losing to Duke. And I also like Eastern Washington because I think Georgetown is very overrated. And I think both teams, a 12 and a 13 seed, can see a matchup in the second round here, or the third round now. And I think Stephen F. Austin can definitely make that Sweet 16 push, but at the end of the day, I don't think they have enough talent to beat any team in the top 4 seed, really, outside of Georgetown.
Yeah, that's a great pick. You certainly want to watch out for Stone Cold Stephen F. Austin and every team in this region. So let's ask right now who the biggest sleeper in this particular region is.
I'm going to go right back to Stephen F. Austin. Now, they're 28-1 in their last 29 games. There's something to be said there. They're not accustomed to losing whatsoever. And they're 5th in the country in field goal percentage, so they can knock down shots. Granted, they're going to have to get open, and that goes without saying, but I think Stephen F. Austin could definitely make a run in the tournament. They were here last year. They upset VCU. Also, they were a 12 seed last year, so I don't see any reason they can't do it again.
I'm falling in love with 3 seeds here. And I like Iowa State as a sleeper. They just came off of their Big 12 championship win. You know, Georges Yang, he came back junior, averaging about 15 points, about 7 rebounds. He's putting in work. I feel like they could potentially have that Sweet 16 matchup with Duke. And maybe, you never know, get to the Final Four.
Yeah, besides the previous 2 teams I spoke on, I really like SMU. I like the way they play. I like Larry Brown as a coach. He slows it down a lot, and I just think they have a lot of talent. And if they would have had Emmanuel Mundy and Miles Turner commit there, I think they would have been a top-tier team in the country. But without them 2, I think they're still a very good team, and they can make a run.
Yeah, and when you look at Iowa State, of course, seeking their second Final Four in school history, so now would certainly be a good time for them to rise up to that elite level of programs. They've been consistent, they've been good. See if they can take that next step. But let's look at this region and ask who is going to win it and head on to the Final Four. Seems kind of open, but one team may have a bit of a clear chance.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be Gonzaga, and this is a team we haven't talked about at all. And I think that's because of Paul Karnowski, their big man. He's 7'1", almost 300 pounds. Of course, they're going to have to run into Duke somewhere along the line. Duke has a pretty easy road into the Elite Eight where they will have to meet up with Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga has the right guy in Karnowski to stop Jahlil Okafor. I think that's the single reason why they'll get past Duke and into the Final Four.
I'm actually going to go against that and go with Duke, just for the simple fact of Jahlil Okafor. He's a game changer. We all know his stat lines. We all know he's probably going to be the number 1 overall pick, if not number 2, 3, somewhere in there. He'll get paid. But then you also have to look at Tyus Jones and Quinn Cook and what they're doing in that backcourt. It's amazing. I mean, I don't know who they're going to get to come in and replace Quinn Cook because we know Tyus Jones probably won't skip and go. But I feel like they have all the tools to finally make it back to a Final Four.
Yeah, Duke is a fantastic team. I'm a big fan of them, but I love Gonzaga too. And I think Gonzaga has all the right players to be able to stop this Duke team. Now, last year I was in love with the Duke team when they had Jabari, and they let everyone down. This year I think they're a little bit of a different team. I think Okafor is a different player. When you have a big man down low, you can dominate. It's a lot easier to win games, but Gonzaga, as you spoke on, Kyle, 7'1", almost 300 pounds. That's a big boy.
Yeah.
And Okafor's got the matchup against him. And I like the way Gonzaga plays, even if they're in a weaker conference, as everyone always talks about. But I think this is the best team they've had in the past 5 years, and I think they're going to be the team to come out of it.
Yeah, and one thing to note about Duke, before their loss in the ACC championship, the Blue Devils won 12 games in a row, so they certainly know how to win. We'll see if they can reel their way into the tournament. But right now we're going to take you back a little bit, guys, to this past November, where you gave your potential Player of the Year candidates and your national championship picks. So let's go back to those clips in November with Kyle, Will, and Vaughn making their selections.
I think it's definitely going to be Frank Kaminsky, who we mentioned a lot earlier. He's the catalyst of that Wisconsin team.
I'm going to go with the junior. And we talked about Kentucky, and we talked about Louisville, Montrezl Harrell.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. Now, Kyle, you said your man was a third senior. I'm going the third freshman ever to win the world, and Jahlil Okafor of Duke.
Now, time to butter your bread, fellas. Who is going to be the NCAA champion come April after the end of March Madness?
I'm going to pick a team that I did not think was going to win their conference, and that's Duke.
I'm going to go with Kentucky for that simple reason of that reload factor.
Well, guys, when I think about a championship caliber team, I think of three things. Think of chemistry, leadership, and defense. And the Wisconsin Badgers have all three of them.
Okay, so you see from those clips, ladies and gentlemen, Kyle, you chose Frank Kaminsky as your favorite to win the Wooden Award. Will, Montrezl Harrell for you. And Vaughn, it was Jahlil Okafor. And here's a chance to redeem yourselves, change your pick. Final opportunity, guys. Who do you have as your Player of the Year now?
I'm sticking to my guns. I think without a doubt Frank Kaminsky is going to win the award. He statistically stuffs the sheets. 20 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game, 2 blocks per game. He barely turns the ball over. He shoots over 50%, shoots over 75% from the free throw line. This guy does it all. And granted, Wisconsin lost to Rutgers earlier in the year. A lot of people pointed their fingers at that loss as a reason. They aren't the #1 team in the country. That's the game Frank Kaminsky did not play in this year. That's the only reason they lost. It shows how valuable he is to that team. I think without a doubt, Frank Kaminsky wins the award.
You said it. Congratulations for that prediction, sir. Frank Kaminsky is a baller. I mean, when you talk about star power, he actually holds it. Like, this is not somebody that was a top five-star recruit, was getting recruited by Kentucky. Duke went to Wisconsin, nice little offense, and shined brightly. He has them on pace to win a national championship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really hate changing picks, but I have to go for Kaminsky. I mean, it's the obvious choice here. Another thing, Kyle, Kaminsky shoots over 35% from the 3-2. He's a big man that can shoot a 7-footer, and that's very valuable to his team. Now, Montrezl Harrell had a great year. Jahlil Okafor had an outstanding year, but Kaminsky is just the obvious choice. He's a senior. He stayed all 4 years also, and he's very valuable to his team, as you spoke on.
And it's so much fun to watch that guy play, a 7-footer who can take it down inside, can step out and hit a 3 as well. A very rare blend of talent for Frank Kaminsky. But looking at the national championship predictions that you had way back when in November, Kyle, very appropriately, based on the shirt you chose, the Duke Blue Devils. Will, you were on the Kentucky Wildcats, and Vaughn, you chose Wisconsin. So your final chance, do you change your mind with your national championship picks?
I will change my mind here. The shirt was not playing. I'm not picking Duke or Kentucky or Arizona or any blue team for that matter. I'm going with Wisconsin, and that's because of Frank Kaminsky and the crew around him. We already mentioned everything we needed to about Kaminsky, but you got to look at Sam Decker, Josh Gosser, and if Trayvon Jackson is healthy, a full go, I think this team is definitely the #2 favorite to win the conference or to win the national title. If they don't have to run into Kentucky, I don't see any reason why they should not win it. Of course, they're going to have to get over Kentucky. If Kentucky is successful, I think they can for sure. They have the experience to do so.
Yes, they do. I am going to stick to my guns. 40-0, here they come. The Wildcats are crazy. They are going to be hungry, I feel, because this is history that they are chasing. Why let down your fan base? We all know, as you had said, what was it, 118 wins in the tournament. It's just legendary stuff. This will just add to the greatness of Kentucky basketball.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say this, but I have to go 0 for 2 today. I have to go from Wisconsin to Kentucky. Now, Wisconsin has the most. They're the best team. I'll put this. They're the best team when it comes to playing team basketball.
Yes.
They have great talent. But Kentucky is just a freak show out there. They have all these big men that can jump. They block shots. They dunk. Karl Anthony Towns is supposed to be second for the Wooden Award right now. I mean, and he barely plays. He plays 25 minutes a game. Cauley-Stein's going to be a lottery pick. Plays 23 minutes a game. The Harrison twins are outstanding. It's hard for me to bet against a team that's 34-0, and I think they can go 40-0. But I really love Wisconsin. That was my preseason pick, but I have to change it here.
Yeah, and when you look at the odds, it's 1-1 Kentucky or the field, Kentucky or everybody else. So very interesting. Vaughn, good thing we're not doing a third prediction because you might get run up with the old backwards case striking out. But that's all the time we have here. Best time of year, ladies and gentlemen, talking college basketball. What a discussion it was. Kyle Condor, Will Gaucher, Vaughn Dalzell. We'll take a break, come back to the other side of the studio, and crash the boards NBA style when we return right here on The Big Hit. And welcome back into The Big Hit, ladies and gentlemen. Continuing the basketball theme here this evening, this time talking some NBA as we crash the boards with Tyrell Walker and Darnell Turner. Gentlemen, let's start in the Eastern Conference with the playoffs. Just 1 month away, the Atlanta Hawks have really opened up a lead in this conference. 10 games to be specific over the Cavaliers for the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. So are the Hawks really this good, or do you think a free fall is coming?
First and foremost, props to the Hawks, to be honest. But is it more so a question of, are the Hawks that good, or is the East just that bad, to be honest? I mean, taking nothing away from the Hawks, but the Bucks are 6 in this conference. Come on. So, you know, to answer your question, yes, they're good in this conference in this year, but the Cavs can sneak up on them at any given time. So the legitimacy will be in question once the playoffs start, I think.
I think the Hawks are legitimate. I think they're a really good team. Now, when it comes to the playoffs, I'm not sure yet because I think they move the ball well. They're really good offensively. They shoot the ball well. Kyle Korver shoots the ball crazy. 4 All-Stars on their team, but they don't have that one star that could take over a game, I don't think. And I think when you get to the playoffs in a 7-game series, I think a team like the Cavs with all that star power, they could take over a series and really dominate and take away the offense that they have in moving the ball. If you think they play like the Spurs, and the Spurs, they have stars, better stars than the Hawks do. So I think in the playoffs, their star power, their lack of star power won't help them in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. In the playoffs, it's all about the individual performances and the stars that can really lead a team to victory. When you look at the Eastern Conference, it's very interesting. The Hawks are there, and then the 2 through 8 spots, all very highly contested, very jumbled there. So give credit to the Hawks where they're at right now. But looking at the bottom of the conference, the final 2 spots of the East are still up for grabs. Pacers, Hornets, Heat, Celtics, and Nets, all separated by 3.5 games. So which of these teams do you feel are the most deserving of a playoff spot coming up this June?
Now, speaking from a Miami Heat fan perspective, I would love to just sit here and say I could care less who ends up in there as long as the Heat are playing. But keeping it professional, I think the Heat and probably Indiana definitely deserve to be in there because of how much they've been able to rally without Paul George, to be honest, who is going to be the very reason that they don't win, they don't go far. But both of those teams, credit goes to both of them. And the Heat adding the X Factor Goran Dragic, I don't think you can have any better 2 teams in the bottom 8 of the 8.
Honestly, I don't think any of those teams should be in the playoffs. The East is just so bad. But all those teams under 500, 7, 8 seed under 500, and the Heat losing Chris Bosh, that was a big loss. I thought getting Goran Dragic and having all 3 of them, they would be a really good team. But with the loss of him, I just don't think that they're really going to make much noise in the playoffs. And the Pacers are shocking me. They're doing really well. I think they'll probably hold on to the 7th seed. The Hornets, the pickup of Mo Williams, I thought that was a really good pickup. He's played really well without Kemba Walker. And the Celtics, 1 minute they're tanking, and now they're in a race for the 8th seed. You don't know what they're doing with all their draft picks, and now they're winning. But, I mean, no team is really playing great. They're just there. So, whoever gets it, gets it. It's an easy first-round matchup for the top 2 seeds regardless.
Yeah, it's really about who can go on that right run at the right time. And Indiana could be a team starting to play a little bit better. But as you said, all of these teams really having a rough go. And whether they make the playoffs, who knows how much noise they're going to make either way. But let's transition over to the West Coast and look at the Western Conference. Bear with me as I run through the conference real quick with Golden State at 1, Memphis 2, Portland 3, Houston at 4, Dallas, San Antonio, the Clippers, and Oklahoma City round out the West. So my question to you is that do you believe that all of these teams currently have a chance to win in the finals, or is there someone that is going to kind of fade their way out?
Honestly, it's the West. I think anybody in the West, as far as the playoffs go, in the top 8 have a legitimate chance. As far as OKC goes, it's a little surprising, but Russell Westbrook done lost his mind, so I'm not going to count them out at all. And let's not get it twisted that the Spurs, they are in 6th, but they're the Spurs. They might as well be a number 1, to be honest. They can sneak up on anybody at any given time. But any team specifically named the Golden State Warriors, I think, by a wash has it wrapped up. Unless Steph Curry just decides he don't want to play basketball anymore, I don't see anybody else getting it.
Yeah, I have to agree. The Warriors are my favorite right now. But if I had to pick one team that I don't think would win the finals, I would have to go with Dallas. You know, they're the 5th seed right now. They're playing really good basketball. But I just don't think in the playoffs, I don't think Rondo is really the right fit for them. You know, he's more of a ball-dominant point guard, and now he's in a system where it's all about ball movement. I just don't really like the fit. And in the playoffs, you know, if Dirk is hot, Parsons is hot, and Monte Ellis play well, you know, anything could happen. But I just don't think they have that much depth to go far in the playoffs.
Yeah, and when you look at the Western Conference, it's going to be a tumultuous stretch to reach the NBA Finals. All these teams are going to just be beating up on each other for series at a time, so we'll have to see if that really has any impact on the Western Conference and its quality of play. But guys, as we wind down here in the NBA season, just a pretty simple question here. Who do you have as your MVP at this point? Who's going to win the MVP?
I would have to say no other than Sir Steph Curry with the shot. It's just, and no discredit to James Harden. They are both doing the same things for their teams. But the natural tendency in sports, especially when it comes to individual awards like the MVP, it tends to lean toward the team who's winning, and Steph Curry's team is winning. And though people can argue James Harden's defense has improved, what's that to a Steph Curry that leads the league in steals right now? So I think it's pretty much academic.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. And lately, since Russell Westbrook went off, everybody forgot about Steph Curry. I mean, did he get cut from the Warriors or something? I don't know what happened. He's top 5 in points, assists, win shares, PR, all of that. And I just think he's on the best team in the Western Conference, best team in the league, and he's the most important player. James Harden, he's played great for them. Russell Westbrook, he's been out of his mind lately. But even with those 6 triple-doubles in the last 8-9 games, his team has a losing record in those triple-doubles in those games. So, you know, he's playing well, and, you know, of course that helps put up numbers without Kevin Durant. But I just think you can't go wrong with Steph Curry. He's been the best player this year on the best team. I think he deserves it.
Yeah, great to watch what Steph Curry's been able to do. Very funny what Iowa University did, tweeting at Davidson, making sure that Steph Curry had ran out of eligibility with their upcoming NCAA tournament game. But ladies and gentlemen, we'll leave it here talking NBA basketball with Tyrell Walker and Darnell Turner. We'll take a quick break, come back, and talk some Crimson Hawks basketball as our basketball extravaganza continues here on The Big Hit. And welcome back into The Big Hit. Always a lot of fun here as we talk some sports, talking IUP Crimson Hawks basketball here in the Crimson Huddle with the play-by-play student broadcasters here at IUP, Mike Gosnell and Malusi Kitchen. Guys, let's start with some IUP women's basketball. A 25-2 regular season for the IUP women. A lot of promise heading in, are in the first round bye in the PSAC tournament, and then lose in the PSAC tournament. Go to the NCAA tournament and lose in the first round there as well. So what happened to the IUP women? They lost to a Shepherd team that they had beat by upwards of 30 points earlier this year, right before Thanksgiving, Goose.
Well, where are the Ides of March, I guess? And the Crimson Hawks did not heed that warning all the way back from Julius Caesar. I don't know what date that is. You'll have to correct me on that one. And that's a $64,000 question. I have no idea what happened. Started out with a huge victory over Edinburgh in the PSAC tournament, going to Bloomsburg to face Westchester, and I guess things just fell from there. They played Westchester very well, but we know Westchester is a very strong team, or was a very strong team, and I think maybe the thought of not facing California to redeem themselves in that PSAC championship game might have had something to do with it, but losing it to a team that you beat by 30 points, you don't really see that coming, and I don't think the Crimson Hawks were themselves I think not getting that PSAC title was probably the catalyst. Not hosting the tournament, I think, is another factor. But for a solid answer, I can't tell you because I don't know how it happened.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck happened. And if you're an IUP fan, you should be absolutely disappointed because this team fell short of expectations drastically. Like you said, losing in the PSAC tournament, and I kind of got that glimpse of like, I'm not predicting that I knew what was going to happen, but when they lost to Cal by 30 and then they went on that winning streak, but then they lost again, and you could kind of see they're very shaky, they're very inconsistent, and they just didn't put it together. Like sometimes, like it's not you just lose, it's like how you lose also. Like they lost bad, and it's not. I don't know what Coach McConnell's going to do on the coming season since he's losing most of his starters. So it's going to be hard to they're going to be in a rebuilding season this upcoming season. So it's definitely going to be a challenge for them getting back to their winning ways.
And I'll say this, you can only get Clarion so much, you can be Sleepy Rock so much. But when it comes to March, teams take it up a notch. And we clearly saw Shepherd wasn't messing around. They clearly knew how to play IUP. And I think IUP just failed to rise to the occasion.
And it's worth noting that Shepherd really improved, and it was really good to see what they were able to do starting the year. They had a younger team, and they were really able to mesh, gel together. Lost in the next round, but good for Shepherd to be able to reel it back like they were able to do. And Lucy, you touched on it a little bit, but let's expand on this topic a little more about IUP and the veteran team. They were 5 seniors on this team, 4 of them starters on this team who spent the majority of the year in the top 25, even in the top 10 at times, but losing a lot of leadership, a lot of scoring. So do you think this team can be a top 25 team once again next year? So short turnaround for Coach McConnell.
No. Do you want me to expand? No, it's not. There's no way because, and I hate saying that because they have such a good future ahead of them, but losing all those players, Lindsay Stamp and Ashley Stoner, are probably the 2 most important players they're losing. You never want to forget about Amy Fairman, Lisa Burton, and Marita Matthey. But when you look back on the past 4 seasons here at IUP, you're going to look at the 2 best, and that is Lindsay Stamp and Ashley Stoner. Who do they have on that bench to replace them? There's really none. They're irreplaceable. It's going to be a struggle next year. If they make the PSAC tournament, I'll be surprised because I don't know what the recruiting class is coming in. We saw glimpses of what they brought in for this year. It looks promising, but the jury's still out. And unless they can, catch fire mid-season or get off on a roll, I just don't see how this team is going to be successful this year. Next year, I should say.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a definite challenge. We're in the Lakers rebuilding mode, I should say, because it's going to be an absolute, I'm not going to say a train wreck, but it's going to be rough. It's going to be a rough season for them. And McConnell, however he wants to play this upcoming season, he's going to have to draft specifically for that. People who can score. Because like you said, we lost a lot of scoring. IUP has lost a lot of scoring, and it's going to be difficult for them to replace that because most of the freshmen and sophomore haven't played that many minutes. So it's going to take them time to build chemistry and just get it going. And like you said, losing the leadership, which is absolutely important for a team. It's just going to be a whole different challenge for Coach McConnell going into his 3rd year.
And you said it. The most important thing they're losing is leadership. The points are important. The rebounds are important. But more importantly over that is leadership. And when you lose that, the five players that you are losing, it's going to be tough to overcome for any basketball team.
Yeah, for the IUP Crimson Hawks women, the focus has to be with Leslie Stapleton leading the charge this upcoming season. So we'll see what they're able to do coming off a fantastic 25-4-year. Congratulations to the IUP women for a PSAC Western Division title as well. We failed to mention that, adding that to the list of accolades so far this year. But let's talk about the IUP men's basketball team and head coach Joe Lombardi. Coming in here in 2006. He won his 200th game over the weekend in the first round game against Glenville State. So let's talk about Coach Lombardi's impact here at IUP since 2006. Came in, struggled a little bit, but he's really built a program here, a culture of success for IUP basketball.
Well, disciple Jamie Dixon, if I'm correct, and you really shouldn't be surprised. I think there's going to be a lot of more exciting things to come. We're going to get to something that was exciting this past on Tuesday, but it just says how well he's adapted to coming to this level of basketball and how well he has been of getting recruits and more importantly transfers. We've had some very good transfers come here through IUP, whether it be 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. And I'm expecting nothing to change throughout the next couple of years. He knows what he's doing, and he knows just how to coach this basketball team. It's tailor-made for him.
Yeah, I think a strong point for Coach Lombardi, he knows how to utilize each and one of his players to the best of their abilities most of the time. He does a great job with coaching these young players and getting the best out of them so they can put it out in a team effort onto the floor. And it just, like, if you're an IUP fan, I think you're spoiled because we're so used to winning. If you were here in 2010, they went to the national championship game, and then we've had continued success with PSAC championships, NCAA tournaments. So we just expect success, and as a champion, you should. You know, if you're any team, you should expect success, and IUP has definitely gotten that over the last 9 years that he's been here. So it's been an absolute pleasure for him to coach this team, for us as fans to watch him and go to the heights that he's gone to.
Yeah, so let's look at some very recent IUP news. Playing West Liberty on their floor at the ASRC on Tuesday. Let's recap that game real quick. IUP comes out with a 77-74 victory over West Liberty. 8 ties, 8 lead changes, headlines, a fantastic played game. Anytime these two teams lock horns, you know it's going to be a battle. Looking at some final statistics here, Sean Dyer leads the way with 23 points. Devontae Chance adds 19, and Devon Cottrell has 11. 3 players in double figures for the IUP Crimson Hawks, 3 in double figures for West Liberty. CJ Hester with 22, Seeger Bonifant with 11, and Devin Hearn with 10. So the IUP Crimson Hawks go in and defeat West Liberty on their home floor. The mantra all week long was, why not us? The Crimson Hawks do it, and Sean Dyer leads the way. So it's on to Evansville, Indiana. The road to Evansville continues for the IUP Crimson Hawks, now 2 wins away from the national championship game. What are their chances of going all the way for this team? Because they've been ranked in the top 10, but anytime it seems like they creep up, something sets them back.
Yeah. Do we know their opponent yet? Have we?
I have not gotten up yet.
We do not know that. Well, regardless, I think if they continue to play the way they've been playing, I mean, they exercise the demon in West Liberty. I think the pressure is off of them right now. I think you get past that roadblock that's been there for the past 5 seasons, and maybe the expectations of the 2010 team maybe start to creep up on them. But I think this is a completely different team. Obviously, sky's the limit. Continue playing your game, and I think we could see IUP in the national championship game.
Oh, absolutely. I think they have a great shot at making it to the national championship game, and I think IUP defensively has been better and better each game, especially with the opponent we just had tonight. West Liberty, 74 points. It has been an absolute amazing feat to watch them defensively, and you can really see everybody's contributing. It's never just one player. They're all helping each other on their shots, and I can't speak enough about the leadership of Devontae Chance. I think he adds an incredible amount of leadership and just poise to this team, whereas otherwise none of them have been to the NCAA tournament and played, except for, I believe, Norfleet. But most of these players are new, so it's really, really, really good for this team to have that type of poise going on to the next round.
And do have an update now on the opponent. It is Azusa Pacific, Wednesday, March 25th at the Ford Center. Azusa Pacific, 14th in the country, is who IUP will play Wednesday, March 25th. So keep that in mind as the IUP Crimson Hawks make the quest to the national championship. Guys, we could probably talk IUP basketball for a good couple of hours, but we got to call it a segment right here. For Mike Gosnell, Malusi Kitchen, I'm Josh Hill. We'll take a break, close the show out with some NHL talk when we return right here on The Big Hit. And welcome into The Big Hit, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to close things out here this evening talking some National Hockey League in the penalty box. Joining us for that, it is Ben Snyder and Sean Fritz, guys, with the NHL season now under the 1-month plateau. The Islanders, Predators, Flames, and Jets are all in playoff contention after missing the playoffs last season. So my question to you is, which of these teams has surprised you the most as we head down the stretch?
I'm mostly surprised by what Calgary has done this season. Last year, they ended the season 27th in the league at the bottom of the barrel. But then they drafted Jonathan Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey, and he's gone on a tear so far. He's in contention against Philip Forsberg for possibly the Calder Trophy, which is the Rookie of the Year. And with Jonas Hiller being the goalie for coming over from Anaheim, from Calgary, I feel like that because those guys are in there, they're doing what they do the best, is just making goals and making saves. Calgary's in 15th in the league right now, and they can make the playoffs, I think.
I agree with you completely. I think I'm really surprised by what Calgary's done, especially with the youth of their hockey team right now. Like you said, guys like Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, another guy. I think right now, obviously, they are in the thick of things in the Western Conference, which is, probably the best conference in the NHL right now. And I just don't know if they're going to be able to keep it going moving forward, losing Mark Giordano for the rest of the season, their captain. That's a big loss for them. Another team that I was really surprised about, though, was the Winnipeg Jets. They've kind of been like an on-the-bubble team the past couple seasons. They've got some good veterans like Andrew Ladd and Dustin Byfuglien. I think they're really meshing together. They've played some really, really good hockey this year. And also making moves to bring in experienced young players like Drew Stafford and Tyler Myers at the deadline. I thought that was kind of a bit of an initiative for them to show that they are going to try and make the playoffs this year. So they've been kind of a surprise for me. I think that they definitely deserve a spot, maybe 7 or 8 spots. So. Yeah,
they're contending for it right now. I think they're out of the playoffs now because the Canes won last night, but it's dead heat. It's just every game matters at this point for every team at this point.
Yeah, the old adage is the push for the playoffs, and that certainly holds true. Let's talk about some more teams here currently out of playoff position, but as you said, Ben, all of these teams really within striking distance as well. The Senators, Panthers, Kings, and Sharks, all among those suitors. So which of these two teams do you believe deserves a playoff spot the most out of that group?
I got to go with the Kings. They're the champs from last year, and they've proven when they're both their cup wins, 2010 they were the 8th seed and they won the cup, and last year they were the 6th seed and they won the cup. If they make the playoffs, they are a dangerous team. And you have 3 centers leading the way for points. You have Jeff Carter, Andrei Kopitar, and Tyler Toffoli leading their team in points. And if you have those guys getting goals for them and Jonathan Quick backing up between the pipes, I think you're going to have a dangerous team again and maybe even go for a run at the Cup and repeat the season with the champs.
I agree. I think LA definitely has a shot right now to get in the playoffs. Right now they're sitting in the 8th spot. I don't know if we're going to see the same things we've seen in the past. Obviously it's possible. Anything can happen. You know how it is in Stanley Cup playoffs. LA is a dangerous team in the playoffs, especially if they get in as an 8th seed. Right now they would play Anaheim, and I know for a fact that that's not somebody that you want to see if you're Anaheim as in your first-round matchup.
Yeah, they beat them last year.
Exactly. They're a dangerous team, like you said, but they've really struggled on the road this season. I think that could come back to haunt them, not having home ice advantage like that, but again, we're going to have to see on that. I really think that the Ottawa Senators have played really, really well lately. I counted them out at the beginning of the year. They've gotten a lot of contributions from their younger players, guys like Mike Stone in particular, Mike Hoffman with 24 goals this season, leads the team. They're a really, really good club. They're young. They've got a lot of work to do, but I think it would be good to get them some experience if they could sneak in as the 8. Andrew Hammond's played phenomenal in net for them. In 11 starts, he's 10-0-1. He's got really, really good numbers. With him as their backstop in between the pipes, I think that they have a good shot to definitely give some teams a scare in the playoffs. I don't know how deep they can go, but again, it's just kind of an experience thing with their young players.
They got to catch Boston first, though. They're at like 6 points out from the wild card spot, but they're on a 3-game win streak at least. So if they can keep winning, there's a chance.
Yeah, in 6 points deficits like that, nothing this time of year. The teams really pick it up, kick it into an extra gear. But let's go ahead and take a look at some things that happened to the end of the season. If you were watching the intro, I said the Conn Smythe Trophy. I must have been very excited about the playoffs or something. The real question is, who is your favorite to win the Hart Trophy? That, of course, given to the league's most valuable player. Who is your go-to for that?
I'm taking Jonathan Tavares right now. He's the center for the New York Islanders, and if you saw last year, he went out with an injury about midway through the season, which made the Islanders tank pretty much. They fell apart that season, and this year, with Tavares backing up their amazing team, they've actually managed to make playoffs. They're second place right now in the Metropolitan Division, and they are on a slight losing streak right now. They've lost 2 in a row. But because of his efforts, along with Kyle Poso and the others, I think he's even leading the league in scoring right now, too. If you have him up there, he's definitely in contention for the MVP award.
John Tavares is a heck of a player. Definitely kind of what makes the wheels turn on Long Island. Like you said, exactly like last year, with the issue they had with him going down. He definitely keeps the team together. He's a captain. He's a good leader. He can put together some points offensively. He does lead the NHL right now in points. But my personal favorite would have to be Alexander Ovechkin right now. I think it's about time that the Washington Capitals really have caught on fire like this, and they're playing phenomenal. Obviously, they've been struggling a little bit. They are in a wild card spot right now in the Eastern Conference, but I think, again, they're kind of a dangerous team. If they can be the 7 or 8 seed, they're a dangerous team. You're not going to want to see them in your first-round matchup. Alexander Ovechkin has played phenomenal this year. Kind of buying into the whole system with new head coach Barry Trotz. I think that's a real key thing. That's not something that's really happened much under previous coaches in Washington with
Adam Oates.
Exactly. I think him buying in, and plus, obviously, his outstanding talent. Got 45 goals this year, leads the NHL. With all that combined, I think he's definitely got to be the most valuable player.
Yeah, no question about it. And I saw a very interesting stat. Over the past 10 years, Alex Ovechkin has shot the puck 1,100 more times than any other player in the league. Not saying that's a bad thing, considering how he scores, and I think everyone in Washington is very happy with that. Ovechkin's starting to get that killer instinct. Opposing teams' fans starting to get the fear struck in them when he touches the puck, and that was something that was lacking the past number of years. So good to see Ovechkin back on track. But let's go ahead and take a look at, when everything is said and done in the NHL, who raises the Stanley Cup at the end of the season? Who do you have?
I think this is the year for the Rangers after about 20 years of just lingering around trying to get back the cup from when Mark Messier won it for them in '94. I feel like they have the most complete team out there. They lost Henrik Lundqvist to an injury, like a burst blood vessel in the neck last month, and they haven't lost a head of steam yet. Cam Talbot's been backing up their goalie for a while, and he's playing phenomenal. They're on a 5-game win streak. They're ahead of the Metropolitan Division by 5 points right now. If they can get out of the Metropolitan Division alive, and I think they have a good chance to do it, nothing stands in their way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think right now it's kind of difficult to tell because, like I mentioned earlier, anything can happen when you get to mid-April and May in the NHL. The Stanley Cup playoffs is a hectic and crazy time. Anything can happen.
Best time of the year.
Exactly, absolutely. And I think right now, if I had to pick a favorite, it would probably be the New York Rangers and the Anaheim Ducks coming out of the Eastern and Western Conference, respectively. Not only because they sit at the top of the standings right now, but because they are probably the best 2 teams in the NHL right now. So that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, should be a very exciting stretch run in the National Hockey League. That's all the time we have here as we hit the penalty box with Ben Snyder and Sean Fritz. That's all the time we have here for the Big Hit as well, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to close the show out here this evening. We remind you to follow us on Twitter for all of the latest updates. I'd like to thank everybody working behind the scenes, all our camera operators, everybody in the control room, and I have just received word to pass along a message from Sean Fritz and Randy Epstein. Go Eagles go, I believe is the message. So we'll leave you with that here on the Big Hit. Good night, everybody.